So, good morning, students. Now, this is part 2 from the Diary of Anne Frank, written by Anne Frank. First of all, we'll see the summary of part 1 that we covered yesterday, and then we will move towards the line by line explanation of the second part, from where the real diary entry of Anne Frank begins. So, this is the summary of part 1. And she is a 13-year-old German-born Jewish girl. She is confided along with her family in the hiding of her father's office building. Though she has a happy family and many friends, but feels lonely and is in great desire to find a true friend with whom she could share her personal feelings. She is in great need to express herself because her mind is bearing so many different thoughts. So she finally decides to start a diary and she names it as Kitty. In the beginning, she gives a brief introduction of herself and her family to form a background for the readers who may read her diary in coming future. She starts the introduction by praising her father as a most loving father. He got married to Anne's mother at the age of 36 and her mother's age was 26 at that time. When Anne was 4 years old, her father emigrated to Holland in 1933. Later on, her mother joined him in September, Margot, her elder sister, in December, and Anne herself in February. Anne started her education at the age of 4 from the Montessori Nursery School. Next, she gives an account of her grandmother's illness, followed by her death. Then she talks about her birthday celebration, and finally, she comes to the time when she is going to make first entry in her diary. So this is the summary of part 1. Now move towards the part 2. So children, now from here, the first entry in her diary starts. This is the day Saturday and the date is 20th June 1942, and she addresses her diary as Dearest Kitty. She calls her diary as Dearest Kitty. The reason is that the kitty means the diary was her dearest, most loving friend. She considered the diary as the closest friend of her, so she addresses it as dearest. Our entire class is quacking in its boots. The reason, of course, is the forthcoming meeting in which the teachers decide who will move up to the next form and who will be kept back. So here Anne starts explaining the day on which the result of her class was going to be declared. So the complete class, the whole class, all the students of the class, they are quacking in their boots, means they are shaking with fear and nervousness. And the reason of this fear and nervousness is the forthcoming meeting, the meeting that is going to be held very soon, in which all the teachers of the school, they'll decide that which students will be promoted to the next form. Next form means next class. So this is the reason why the students are getting nervous, why they are shaking with fear. Further, she tells that the teacher will also decide that who will be kept back, means who will remain, who will be detained in the same class. So this is the reason of the nervousness, fear that is prevailing in the class of Anne. Half the class is making bets. Gian and I laugh ourselves silly at the two boys behind us, Cian and Jacques, who have staked their entire holiday savings on their bet. So here Anne tells that half of my class was busy in making bets. They were betting whether they will be promoted or they will be detained. So I, along with my friend GN is the name given to one of the friends of Anne. So Anne tells us that GN and I both were laughing uncontrollably. Laugh silly means laugh continuously without control. So we both were laughing uncontrollably at two boys who were sitting behind our bench where we were sitting. So those two boys were Cian and Jack. And what did they do? They had staked their complete holiday savings on these bets. Okay, whether they will be passed or they will be failed. So that was the reason why we were laughing on these two boys uncontrollably. From morning to evening, it's you are going to pass. No, I am not. Yes, you are. No, I am not. Even G's fleeting glances and my angry outburst can't calm them down. So now here Anne tells us that these two boys from morning to evening, they are continuously arguing, they are guessing. One is saying, you are going to pass, and the other one would say, no, I am not. Further, the first one would say, yes, you are going to pass. And the second one would say, no, I am not. No, I am not going to pass at all. And so this is the way these two boys, they are continuously guessing. And this is the reason why Anne and her friend Jean, they laugh silly on these two boys. Even G's pleading glances means G's, her friend, Anne's friend, she requests with emotional expressions, and I myself, I shout angrily on these two boys, but my friend's pleadings and my angry outbursts, they could not stop these two boys by guessing their future in the coming result. If you ask me, there are so many dummies that about a quarter of the class should be kept back. But teachers are the most unpredictable creatures on earth. Now here Anne tells us that if anybody would ask her suggestion about the promotion of the students in the class, I would suggest that a quarter means 1/4 of the class should be kept back. And the reason is that many students in the class are acting as dummies. They are not studying properly and they are not performing well. So that's why they should not be promoted. But further she adds that because teachers are the most unpredictable. Unpredictable means changeable, and unforeseeable means nobody can guess what is going on in the mind of teachers. So she says that teachers are the unpredictable creatures. What they are going to decide, it cannot be uh, guessed in advance. So what will happen to these students who are reacting, who are behaving like dummies? How will their future be decided by these teachers? It is unpredictable. I am not so worried about my girlfriends and myself. We will make it. The only subject I am not sure about is maths. Anyway, all we can do is wait. Until then, we keep telling each other not to lose heart. Now here Anne tells us that she is not worried about her promotion in the next grade and the promotion of her girlfriends. We all will make it, means we will all get promotion in the next grade easily. Then further she says that there is only one subject, that is maths, in which I am not sure whether I will be promoted or not. Then further she adds that anyway we cannot do anything right now, so we can do only one thing, and that is to wait until our result is declared by the teachers. So till then we must keep telling each other that we should not be disappointed, we should not lose our heart. I get along pretty well with all my teachers. There are 9 of them, 7 men and 2 women. Mr. Keesing, the only fogey who teaches maths, was annoyed with me for ages because I talked too much. Now, here Anne tells us that she was having very good relations with all her teachers, and in the staff of her teachers there were 7 males and 2 females. And Mr. Keesing, he was one old-fashioned, fogey means old-fashioned or conservative person. So he was very old-fashioned person and he taught us maths. But he was always annoyed. Annoyed means irritated. He was always irritated with me for a long, long time because I talked so much. I was very talkative. I was very much fond of talking in the class, and that was the reason why my maths teacher, Mr. Keesing, who was our old fogey, who was always annoyed with me. Otherwise, I had very good relations with my remaining teachers in my class. After several warnings, he assigned me extra homework, an essay on the subject, a chatterbox. A chatterbox? What can you write about that? I would worry about that later, I decided. I jotted down the title in my notebook, tucked it in my bag, and tried to keep quiet. So now Anne further tells that because my maths teacher was always annoyed because of my over talkative attitude, so he gave me several warnings that I should not talk too much. But finally, what did he do? He punished me. And how did he punish? He assigned me an extra homework. As a punishment, he gave me one extra homework. And what was that extra homework? An essay on the subject, a chatterbox. So the maths teacher, he assigned and with one extra homework, and that was an essay on the topic a chatterbox. Now students, what does this word chatterbox mean? Chatterbox is a person who likes to chatter, who is very talkative, who is a talker. So here the teacher gave this topic a chatterbox for Anne to write an essay on it. A chatterbox? What can you write about that now? And when he heard about that title, the topic on which she was supposed to write an essay, so she thought that what could be written on that topic. But further she says that I would worry about that later, I decided. So she says that I decided that about the subject's content I would take worry later on when I write the essay on it. So what did I do? I jotted down the title in my notebook. She says that I decided that I will think about it later on in the evening. So I noted down. Jotted down means noted down the title in my notebook, and then I kept my notebook in my bag and tried to remain silent in the remaining period of my maths teacher. That evening, after I had finished the rest of my homework, the note about the essay caught my eye. I began thinking about the subject while chewing the tip of my fountain pen. So now Anne further tells us that in the evening when I was doing my homework, and as soon as I finished the rest of the homework, I caught notice of that topic topic on which I had to write an essay, a chatterbox. So I got anxious, I got worried and stressed, and I started to chew the tip of my fountain pen. Students, when do we do this action? Chewing the tip of some pen and pencil? Yes, of course, when we are stressed, when we are worried and anxious about something and we don't know how to solve that problem, that stress. So in that case, we start chewing the tip of her pen or pencil. So here and was having a fountain pen, so she started to chew the tip of that fountain pen as a worry about writing the essay on the topic a chatterbox. Anyone could ramble on and leave big spaces between the words, but the trick was to come up with convincing arguments to prove the necessity of talking. Now here Anne adds further that if there would be some other student in place of me, he could easily write aimlessly. Ramble on means talk or write aimlessly for long. So Anne tells us that if there would be any other student in place of me, he could easily write down aimlessly on the topic that was given to me, and he would leave big spaces between the words of the sentences in the essay, but I did not want to do like that. My aim was to present the convincing arguments in the form of statements so that my teacher would believe that talking is an essential thing for the life of the students. I wanted to prove the necessity of talking, and that's why I wanted to present convincing arguments, convincing statements, and I wanted to make my maths teacher believe that talking is very much important for the life of the students' children. I thought and thought, and suddenly I had an idea. I wrote the 3 pages Mr. Keesing had assigned me and was satisfied. I argued that talking is a student's trait and that I would do my best to keep it under control. So now here Anne tells that I thought for a long time. I thought and thought means I thought for a long time, and then suddenly one idea flashed to my mind, and then I wrote 3 pages on the topic which Mr. Keesing had assigned me. After writing those 3 pages, I got satisfied. Means I was satisfied with my writing. So in that writing, what did I do? I argued that talking is a student's trait. Means it is the quality of a student to talk. And that was the argument given by me in that essay. Further, she tells us that I would do my best to keep it under control. And further, she wrote in the essay that though it is a trait of a student to talk, but still I would try my level best to keep a check on my over talking. I'll try to control my talking habit. But that I would never be able to cure myself of the habit, since my mother talked as much as I did, if not more. That there is not much you can do about the inherited traits. Inherited traits means qualities, maybe physical or mental, that one gets from one's parents. So here further Anne adds that though I would try to check my habit of talking too much, but still I am not sure that I will be able to cure it myself completely, because that is the inherited trait that I have. Means I have inherited this quality from my parents. I have got it from my parents. And my mother, she also talks a lot as I talk. Maybe she is not talking more than me, but she is talking similarly as I talk. So that there is not much you can do about inherited traits. Means further she tells that we cannot keep check on the traits that we inherit from our parents, because those are the qualities that are inside our body from birth. So those traits, those inherited qualities cannot be completely cured, and that may happen with me also, because I have inherited this talkative nature from my parent, from my mother especially. So maybe I will not be able to cure it completely, but still I'll try to have a check on it to some extent. Mr. Keesing had a good laugh at my arguments, but when I proceeded to talk my way through the next lesson, he assigned me a second essay. Now here and further adds that Mr. Keesing, when he read my essay, he laughed a lot on my arguments that I gave in that essay about my talking habit. But when I continued to talk in the next coming lessons, then further he assigned me a second essay. Because I did not stop talking, so again Mr. Keesing got annoyed and he assigned me a second essay as a punishment. This time it was supposed to be an incorrigible chatterbox. I handed it in and Mr. Keesing had nothing to complain about for 2 whole lessons. However, during the third lesson he had finally had enough. And Frank, as punishment for talking in class, write an essay entitled "Quack, Quack, Quack," said Mistress Chatterbox. This time, now and tells us that this time it was supposed to be on an incorrigible chatterbox. Means second time she got the topic an incorrigible chatterbox. Means something that cannot be corrected. So here I wrote the essay and I handed in to my maths teacher, Mr. Keesing, and uh, he did not complain against my talking habit for next 2 whole lessons. But very soon in the third lesson, he finally had enough. Means again he got annoyed. And what did he do? What did he say? And Frank, as a punishment now for talking in the class, you are going to be given one more assignment, and that is an essay which is entitled as "Quack, Quack, Quack," said Mistress Chatterbox. So this was the third time and was assigned an essay as a punishment because of her habit of over talking. The class roared. I had to laugh too, though I had nearly exhausted my ingenuity on the topic of chatterboxes. So now further Anne tells us that when I was assigned the third uh, essay as a punishment on my habit of talking too much, so my entire class started to laugh loudly, and I had to laugh too because everybody was laughing. But further she tells that though I had nearly exhausted my ingenuity means originality, inventiveness, on the topic of chatterboxes. This topic, chatterbox, was now on which I have talked too much, I have wrote too much, that now I had finished everything on that topic and nothing remained original and inventive on that topic. It was finished, it was exhausted. So now it was time to come up with something else, something original. So she thought that this time she should write something different, something else that would be purely original and that would strike to the teacher, to the maths teacher. My friend Sen, who is good at poetry, offered to help me write the essay from beginning to end in verse, and I jumped for joy. Mr. Keesing was trying to play a joke on me with his ridiculous subject, but I would make sure that joke was on him. This time Anne wanted to do something different. So she got one friend, Sen, who was very good at writing poems. And Miss Sen, she offered help to Anne in writing the essay from beginning to end in the form of a poem. Verse means poem. So listening this, Anne jumped with joy. She became very happy that now she would be able to write something original on the topic. Mr. Keesing was trying to play a joke on me with this ridiculous subject, but I would make sure the joke was on him. So further she adds that my maths teacher, Mr. Keesing, he was trying to play a joke on me. He was trying to make fun of me by giving me this comical, this silly subject. Ridiculous means silly, funny subject. So he was trying to make fun of me by giving me something to write on this ridiculous subject. But now it was sure that this joke was going to be played on him. I would play this joke back on my teacher. I finished my poem and it was beautiful. It was about a mother duck and a father swan with three baby ducklings who were bitten to death by father because they quacked too much. So now what was the content of that poem? Here Anne first finished the poem and she found that it had turned really beautiful, means it had written beautifully. And then she tells us that in that poem she had one mother duck and a father swan and three baby ducklings. And these three baby ducklings, they were killed by the father because they were quacking too much. They were making fun, they were making too much sound of quacking. So they were bitten to death by the father. And that was the content of her poetry, she tells us. Luckily, Mr. Keesing took the joke the right way. He read the poem to the class, adding his own comments and to several other classes as well. Now that poem was read by Mr. Keesing, the maths teacher, but luckily he did not get angry and he took this joke in a right manner, in a light way. And what did he do? He read that poem in front of the whole class and then also added his own comments on that poem, and he further read the same poem in some other classes also. And in this way, what did happen next? Since then, I have been allowed to talk and haven't been assigned any extra homework. So now further Anne tells that after reading my third last essay on the topic chatterbox, my maths teacher, he stopped irritating, he stopped getting annoyed by my habit of talking, and he allowed me to talk during the class hours, during the class periods, and haven't been assigned any extra homework. And after that he did never assign any extra homework to me as a punishment. On the contrary, Mr. Keesing's always making jokes these days. Then further she adds that now my maths teacher, just opposite to his previous nature, now he himself is making jokes on different topics while he is teaching in the class. And then Anne finishes her diary by saying, yours, Anne. So students, this is the end of the first entry made by Anne in her diary. This is an extract from the diary of a young girl, as I told you previously at the beginning of the lesson. It is adapted with the slight changes in it. So now we have come to an end of our explanation part. I hope you all have understood. See you soon. Till then, take care of yourself. Thank you.